Listen.
So, good afternoon, everybody. So, today's topic is we are not going to learn today anything. Rather, what we'll be going to do is that we'll be using our common sense and commonly observed things. And from there, if we can derive anything, that we will be trying our way. So, I'm just writing today's topic is just fun, nothing other than that. Just fun. Now I'm going to start whatever we know. So if I am going to write a vector, what are the examples? You are going to say that is the position, velocity, acceleration, force, moment. Next is flux, electric field, next you are going to say angular momentum, and etc. And dot. The main. Now from this set, if I am going to just pick up any vector, and it is true for every vector. So if I am going to write V is equal to the V magnitude and its unit vector along it. Is this correct? So you just choose any vector and you can represent as this. Now if I am going to make the differentiation of this vector, then what shall I write? So definitely I am going to write d dt of v e this unit vector allocate plus v d dt of EV, the unit vector. Just chain rule of differentiation is correct. Now this is alright, you can directly write dV dt times EV plus for this what you are going to write? Look carefully that it is an unit vector. So unit vector is not going to change its magnitude. Rather what it is going to do is that it is going to change the direction. So the rate of change of direction is this differentiation. So I can write V omega as a vector cross EV. Sorry, it is a unit vector. So this is equal to dV, the magnitude change across the unit vector plus this whole part can be written as V cross V. So essentially what you are getting? You are getting the rate of change of magnitude and this part is the rate of change of direction. Sure. So, how the vector is changing its direction? Keeping look carefully that this vector is going to remain same. What? The rate of change is the directional change. This is its magnitude change. Now this part, I think you are quite familiar with this part. But this part is quite new to you. So this part is called also as gyroscopic term. gyroscopic term, and it is true for any vector and every vector. Wherever you are going to take the differentiation of a vector, then this is what is the form. I have not violated anything, right? Now, this part, as this part is quite conversant to you, let us discuss about, let us visualize this part where we have seen it, right? Now, for example, just let me give you a simple example: DC generator. Where you have seen DC generator? Just to give an illustration that this is not a this absolute this differentiation, or rather this differentiation is not valid for, I mean, not only valid for mechanics as well as for other field as well. For example, DC generator. The induced EMF is proportional to the minus of rate of change of flux, right? For example, DC generator, where you have seen DC generator, if you have the experience of riding the bike, you have just seen the speedometer, right? I mean, it is going to say indicate whether you are running at 20 km per hour or 40 km or 60 km, like that. So that speedometer, the needle, it deflects according to the speed. So over there you will find that at the front wheel, one DC generator has been embedded. Now from there, that wire is going to come, and that indicator is nothing but a voltmeter. So you understand that for a DC generator, the voltage induced EMF is proportional to the speed, because you are going to get the permanent magnet DC generator. So always the flux lines are radial, right? So if you are going to move your coil, if you are just going to move your coil, rotate your coil, then as per the speed, your voltage is going to be decided. So I can write that my DC voltage or EMF is, or rather let's start with the d phi by dt. Phi is the vector, d phi by dt. Is there any flux magnitude change? No, because you are going to get permanent magnet. The flux lines are absolutely same, they are not going to change. So it is, what you are going to write? D phi by dt as omega, at which rate the front wheel is rotating, omega cross phi, both are inverted. Okay, so you are going to write induced EMF, and that is what the voltmeter is going to do. Induced EMF is equal to minus N times omega cross phi. Now you look that flux are radial. I mean, if you are going to choose the cylindrical coordinate system, flux are radial, and your rotation is along the axis, z axis, or z. So definitely this EMF is going to be in the tangential line, right? So that tangential voltage and the number of turns that you are having is going to decide your voltage, right? So this is one of the example. It is going to decide the voltage, and that voltage is seen as, this voltage is seen as your deflection to the how much speed that you are moving, right? Another example, I think all of you have played with this thing. I think you can, the kids, they used to call it as spinner, right? I think you have seen it. You have seen it. Like for example, you are just rotating it, then it is going to rotate. I mean, for a longer time, right? So just do one thing. Just do. I know that in your home there will be kids will be there and they will be playing with this. So you do one thing. You just orient somewhat like this. You are going to do it effortlessly. But as soon as you rotating it, and after that, during the rotation, you are going to make it somewhat like this. Then you are going to get certain amount of resistance. Why it is so? Why it is so? See, look over here, we are going to consider that this speed, though this speed is changing because it is having the resistance, but we are assuming that the speed is not going to change, right? So let's say this speed is not going to change. When you are going to do it like this, reorienting like this, then you will find that the resistance increases. But when it is stationary, there is as such no resistance. You are doing it effortlessly. But if as much as the speed you are going to give and reorienting like this, then you will find that the resistance is needed is quite high. It is going to increase. I think you have, all of you have experienced this. So why it is so? The thing is that, so when you are rotating it, actually when it is stationary, there is no angular momentum. So if you are going to keep the center fixed and you are going to reorient, nothing is there. But as soon as you are going to start it, it is going to rotate. So you are going to get the angular momentum is this in this direction. Now through the reorientation of it, you are changing the direction of angular momentum. So the rate of change of angular momentum is the torque. So you have to provide a torque. If the speed is high, then you will find that the resistance to reorient it is higher. Why it is so? Because it is proportional to the omega. You are reorienting it. The angular momentum magnitude increases, and as a result, to reorient it, whatever the reorientation you are going to give, so that vector is going to change, and as a result, omega cross this part, just similar, omega cross V. If this V is going to increase, then with the same omega, this amount is going to increase. Okay, are you understanding? So if this V is not there, the angular momentum is not there, then if you are going to make it omega, I mean, if that angular momentum is not there, then it is going to be 0. But if this angular momentum is going to increase, then with the same type of reorientation, you are going to get huge, you have to provide huge amount of resistance, or it is going to provide huge amount of resistance, right? So this is one of the perfect example of what we call as gyroscopic term, right? So this is what is your gyroscopic term. Why it is so? Because you can consider the vector, you can write it as magnitude plus direction. In fact, then all these left hand side are the rate of change of magnitude, and the right hand sides are the rate of change of direction. Okay, sure. So this term is called the gyroscopic term, right? And as the course is going to proceed, we will be getting the real exposure of what is called the gyroscope. Okay, sure. Now with this thing, we are going to introduce with it. Is it so difficult? No. So I think I'll not say that you are going to say no. No. The thing is that it is up to you. But I have not used anything which is new to you. Whatever you know, that I have described. And even I am going to give you through email one handout it is taken from class 11 CBSE textbook. So whatever you have studied in class 11, just I will be giving, if you are facing some difficulty, the similar problem from your class 11 textbook from mechanics portion in 9 minutes, right? So I think it is now clear. So let me write that this is not just a fun, rather we have understood a topic called absolute differentiation of a vector. So this is the absolute differentiation of a vector. So our topic is, today's topic is absolute differentiation of a vector, and we will see that how we can use this calculus approach to bypass many such geometrical things. Okay. So my next experiment is going to be like, for example, this is my audio, this part. For example, what I am going to do is that, let's say, I am just going to make like this. Think about it. I am just going to make it like this. Right? Now, at any instant of time, what is the velocity of this point? That is, we are going to try to find it out from whatever we have discussed in today's class. Okay, sure. So, for that, what shall I do? I will make a simple experiment like for, let's say, this is the mass point. This one, let's say it is theta, theta dot and theta dot. So you can confidently use them as omega and alpha. So this this part, position vector r, can be represented as r. R is that, yeah, this is what is your r. This is what is your r. R dot r er. Now velocity, what is velocity? Velocity is equal to dr dt. So what you are going to write? dr dt er plus r, or rather, shall I move direct or we just okay. So for the time being, I am just not jumping this time. So I am going to write r d dt of er. So what you are going to write? R dot er plus what you are going to write? R omega cross er. So what you are going to write? R dot er plus r, what is that? K cross er. Now I am going to write for this part as er e theta and k. So k times er. So that definitely this is e theta. So let's say r dot er plus r omega e theta. Now I am just repeating once again the experiment what I performed. This experiment was I was rotating like this, right? So you understand this r is not going to change. So I can remove this part as r dot is equal to 0 as it is equal to 0. So what we are going to get is equal to r omega e theta, or you can conveniently write v is equal to r theta dot e theta, which you already know. But what we did just the absolute differentiation of the vector. Now you are going to appreciate this part when we will be going to its acceleration term. When we will be going to the acceleration term. When we will be going to the acceleration term. So for acceleration term, what I will be doing is I will be making this dv dt. So for that dv d we got it. I'll just put the v over here, and after that I'll be going for its acceleration. So my v becomes r theta dot e theta is equal to r omega e theta. Now acceleration, what it is going to be? Acceleration is d dt of r omega e. So what you are going to write? Look carefully that your r is not going to change, because that is what the experiment was telling you. R is not going to change. So I just simply I will be neglecting r dot, or otherwise I can make r dot omega e theta plus r omega dot e theta plus, what shall I write? What shall I write? I will be writing r omega times d dt of e theta. So you understand this r dot is going to be 0. So essentially you have r omega dot is nothing but r alpha e theta plus r omega and over here omega as a vector. Please look carefully, these are the scalar, I mean the magnitude part, but this one is a vector, omega cross e theta. So it is going to be r alpha e theta plus omega means omega k and theta minus er. So it is going to be minus r omega square e r. Are you understanding? But you just remember that this is what is the acceleration. This is called the tangential acceleration, and this is the radial acceleration, or this is the tangential acceleration. This is what is your centripetal acceleration. Now you look from your higher secondary days, the way you derived for just this simple part, how you derive the centripetal acceleration. We are not using anything, any geometry. I am not drawing anything. Have I drawn anything? Sin theta is going to be considered to be theta for small angle. Like I can remember my class 11 days thing, that it is somewhat like this, then it has moved. So this is what is, this one is r, this one is r, and this part is dr. Like that I have not done. I have not used any geometry. Rather what I did is that I did the concept of absolute differentiation of geometry. So with that I am going to bypass all these geometrical things. Just simple calculus is good enough. Now let me change the experiment. Now the experiment becomes somewhat like this. Experiment becomes, let's say it is somewhat like this. I hope, sorry. Yeah. Now are you understanding? The experiment becomes like this. So what is going to happen is that this part, this simple part is going to change. Let us remove this part. Let us remove this part and calculate the more general part. So the situation is somewhat like this. I mean it is going to, and this is what is the mass is, let's say it is the some r, at any instant of time r vector is equal to r e r. It is not going to change. So v vector is equal to dr dt, as we have discussed, derived earlier. So it is just the r dot er plus, what is going to happen? Omega r e theta. Class. Omega r e theta. Okay. So now, if I am going to go for acceleration, because I am not doing, we have already did that part. We just did that part, so we are not going to repeat this part. So over here we will just directly go to the acceleration part. So for acceleration, what we will be writing? d dt of r dot times er plus r dot d dt of er plus what you are going to write? d dt of omega r d theta plus d dt of plus r e theta plus omega r d dt of e theta. Look, what we are going to do is that this part we are keeping for reserving for this velocity. This part we are going to reserve for the second part of the velocity. So this becomes r double dot er plus this becomes what? R dot what is omega cross er. Omega is k and er. K and er is equal to e theta. So it is going to be r dot omega e theta. Okay, sure. So that constitutes my first part of acceleration coming out of the first part of the velocity. So this velocity change, this part velocity change is this. Okay, this velocity with respect to the time after time derivative we are going to generate this much of acceleration. Now we will be coming over here. d omega dt is equal to alpha. So alpha r e theta plus omega r dot e theta plus omega r, what e theta is? Omega k times e theta. K e theta minus, so it is going to be minus of omega. So it turns out to be minus omega square r er. So let us just constitute them in terms of er and e theta. So as in the a side is not there, so I am just using this space. Acceleration is going to be what? Er terms, yes. So it is r double dot minus omega square r er plus what we are going to get? Alpha r plus twice omega r dot e theta. Now you have solved that the class test problem. If I just going to rewrite in terms of the theta, then it is going to be r double dot minus theta dot cos square r er plus theta double dot r plus twice theta dot r dot e. Now let us identify what are those. This is the radial acceleration. It means that sitting in the string, let's do that experiment once again. Sitting at the string, how the string is going to look, that what is the rate of change of its length. Just you are sitting at this. So it is rotating, you are sitting over there. This term defines that. This term is the centripetal acceleration. This part is the tangential acceleration. And what is this part? This part is the Coriolis acceleration. Okay? So this is called the Coriolis acceleration. this kind of concept in where I have seen this. I mean, say suppose I want to use this whatever the expression that we have derived, right? That we have derived. I want to use it in the practical application. If you can remember that in the class test problem, if you are knowing this expression, then your principle of virtual work becomes very easy to solve. But look carefully that you could forget that. But if you know how to do the absolute differentiation of a vector, don't have to refer to any book or any mobile phone, Google, this, that. Just you should clearly know what is absolute differentiation of a vector. From there, within a minute, like for example, I am just doing all these things, I am not jumping the step. That is why it is going to take that much of time. But when I will be jumping the step, when I will be quite efficient in solving the absolute differentiation of a vector problem, then I will be directly using this. There is one more thing. That you look, this Coriolis force, the Coriolis acceleration is coming from where? It is coming from this and it is coming from this. So what it is talking about? When this part, this radial acceleration is changing the orientation, then you are going to get the Coriolis force. What? This radial velocity is changing the direction, then it amounts to the Coriolis acceleration. This radial velocity, when it is changing the direction, it amounts to the one part of the Coriolis acceleration. Sure? And then when we are going to get? When this tangential velocity is changing the magnitude, then it amounts to the Coriolis acceleration or this term. Okay, sure? The radial velocity is changing the orientation. Then you are going to get the Coriolis acceleration. When the tangential velocity is changing the magnitude, then you are doing another component of the Coriolis acceleration. Okay, sure? Now let's say I want to use this concept in some instrument, right? So suppose I want to measure, as you know that absolute differentiation of a vector is related to the mostly, magnitude changes there, that is obvious, but it is having that directional part. Say suppose I am not going to use any magnitude change. So if there is no magnitude change, R double dot is going to be 0, right? Magnitude change, try to understand. R double dot is going to be 0, only the velocity will be there. Let's say the velocity is there only, right? There is no acceleration. So you understand that this term, anything which is related to theta and theta double dot is going to be there, right? Let's say for simple example, let's say we are going to neglect angular acceleration, right? Angular acceleration we are neglecting. So theta double dot we are neglecting. So let's say which are the terms that we are going to have at present if we want to measure omega, right? Say when we measure the omega, how we measure the omega? By the way, tell me how we measure the omega. It is in your mobile phone only. If your mobile phone is having gyroscopic sensor, because you understand that we are talking about gyroscopic term. So definitely we have to talk about the gyroscope, and which is in your mobile phone, right? So let's say I'll make my instrument in such a way that my R double dot is equal to theta double dot is equal to 0. Now how many terms are going to left over there? So this term and this term. Let's say my F1, sorry, let me explain a bit, that you understand this one is the acceleration. So if this one is the acceleration, the force is going to be minus of mass times this acceleration, because all these are the acceleration term. So this acceleration, if you are going to put this as an input, theta dot and theta dot, then the mass attached to it is subjected to negative of that acceleration. So as such, the centripetal acceleration will now becomes centrifugal, right? This part tangential will be just the opposite. Okay, so like that. So we are making that this mass, let's say this test mass is having F1 of theta dot square r and F2 minus m. Sorry, m has to be multiplied, m times twice r dot, sorry, theta dot and r. Theta dot and r dot. Let's say these are the two forces. Now, if you just have in your mobile phone, if you are having a gyroscopic sensor, you understand that it is going to be somewhat, you are going to change to reorient it, right? It is going to give you the certain values, right? So you can assume that my theta dot is, or omega is small. So this is common for both, same for both the cases. Omega is equal to theta dot is pretty small. Because that is a practical example that I am going to give you. If you have the in your mobile phone, if you are having the gyroscopic sensor, you are just orienting somewhat like this. Then are you understanding that this theta dot is pretty small or omega is pretty small? So if theta is small, theta dot is small, then what you are going to get? This F1 is going to be pretty small. So you can neglect, but you cannot neglect this part, right? Based on this force only, we measure the angular orientation. So if I will be getting the theta dot, and from the theta dot I will be integrating it, and I am going to get the theta. So that is what exactly your mobile phone is going to do. Now let's check how they do it. For example, let's say there is a spring and there is a mass. So if I am going to give to this spring and mass system a continuous oscillation. Let's say this is capital omega. At capital omega, it is going to vibrate. So let's say it is vibrating at x, or let's say it's r is equal to k sine of capital omega. Now from your first year course, you know there are many circuits which are oscillating. So let's say this is the oscillating circuit. Okay, so over there some mass is there. So that mass is under the oscillation and it is having sine of omega t. So you are going to get r dot as a omega cos of omega t. Let's say this is what is my r. I mean, I am going to consider that this is what is my r. It is always oscillating, right? But known frequency. I think you from your first year course you know that this oscillating circuits are having known frequency, right? And rather it is the resonating frequency. So it is having a certain frequency, and it's that frequency characteristic frequency is this. So it is oscillating. Now, if you have given any orientation to it, any orientation, let's say you have given an angular velocity along this. Now what you are going to get? Your velocity r dot is like this in this direction, your omega is in this direction. Next, what is the magnitude of the force? The force magnitude is twice, if I am going to write in the vectorial form, minus m twice omega cross this velocity. Okay, so omega cross v, omega cross v, right? And as it is a minus sign is there, so the force is somewhat like this. Force is directed towards this. This is what is your force direction as per this F2. So this part is F2. Now what you are going to get? So you are going to get that this oscillating circuit, if it is subjected to a small amount of omega, this mass is going to come out like this. So it is oscillating in this plane. Now this blackboard, you have given just twist towards the blackboard. I mean, this blackboard is going this way, right? I mean, it is just pushing the wall and breaking the wall and going up. So as a result, what you are going to get is that this mass is going to go out of the blackboard. As it is coming out of the blackboard, if I put a small capacity thing, so if it is deflected small, because this omega is small, so the deflection is, this force amount is going to be small. You see, it is directly proportional to the omega. So that small amount could be sensed through the change in capacitance, right? That change in capacitance is going to give me the amount of force F2, because that is what is obvious. Now you look carefully that I can change the sensitivity of this instrument by making V is more. How can I make V is more? Because this is in my hand. This V is in my hand, because that is the circuit I have designed. Right? Its frequency, mass, everything is in my hand. But this omega is given as input. Like your bike's speedometer. Okay? So, this is my input and it is not in my hand. My customer is going to say that I am going to make 0.001 radian per second. I have to accept, right? So, this is not in my hand, but this is in my hand. Then, what do you have to do? Look carefully, this R dot is equal to A omega cos of omega t. If you make omega pretty high, then what you are going to get? This force is going to be high. So as a result, it will be coming more from the blackboard towards this, and you are going to get a huge amount of capacitive charge. Right? This is what is the fundamental principle of your gyroscopic sensor in mobile. So they use the Coriolis force, which is once again the gyroscopic term. This term is gyroscopic. Look carefully. Anything. This velocity is not going to change its magnitude. What it is changing is changing its direction. Right. Now there is one more thing. Is there? I think in your first year course, modulation and demodulation you have studied. I hope so. If you not, then what I'll say? I'll say radio Mirchi, right? FM, frequency modulation. So you find that whenever you are going to listen to radio Mirchi, the signal that you are going to get modulated frequency signal. That means 98.3 is the best frequency. Now, whatever you are going to receive as a signal, that is modulated with respect to 98.3, right? So the frequency, your receiver is going to sense the frequencies, and sitting at the 98.3, it is going to demodulate the signal, audio signal, which is going to be received from your radio station. So over here, look, this is acting as a modulating signal. This is what is the modulation frequency. So you have to derive out that modulation frequency and you are going to get omega. That is what exactly is being done in your mobile. And this kind of sensors are called MEMS sensors. So they are based on the same basic principle of absolute differentiation of light. Now I just conclude this section in a concluding note is that today we have learned the absolute differentiation of a vector. Absolute differentiation of a vector is meaning that you are differentiating both the magnitude and direction. Magnitude and direction. When it is the directional change, then it is omega cross that vector, right? When it is the directional change, then it is the d, that magnitude with respect to the time rate of change of that magnitude, right? So over here we are very much conversant with the differentiation of a magnitude, but not the differentiation of direction. So that direction term we elaborated with simple example, like we took the example of this part, your bike speedometer part. Next we took the illustration with whatever we have studied earlier, like this experiment, right? So with this we have tried to elaborate the absolute differentiation of a vector. Please keep in mind this part will be extensively using in kinematics of particle, kinematics of rigid body, dynamics of rigid body, because my vector are position, velocity, acceleration, force, moment, flux, electric field, angular momentum, and so on. Electric field, magnetic field, so many, right? So these quantities, any quantities, the absolute differentiation of a vector is applicable to all these vectors. It is irrespective of it, right? So we have used the one concept which is applicable to any, right? With this I am going to conclude. Okay, thank you, have a nice day.